Hey, Dr. Stevens, this is Michael Leslie. Doing my video over, I think it's what week is this? Week 10 of Practicums, I think. Anyways, for the Freedom Practicum, we had Pastor Dale Williams. Pastor Dale Williams this week on our Wednesday night Practicum with Brady Daniel, talking about the relational care ministry that they have at Gateway. And Pastors on Call was the big thing he was talking about, and how basically what Pastors on Call is when Gateway's not open, like when their offices are not open, and somebody was to call in the middle of the night or something, and they could get through to a pastor. And they talked about how they have enough pastors where they only have to do it, where each pastor only has to do it really once a week for each campus. And so, which I thought was pretty cool. But basically, somebody could call in about, I don't know, like their with suicidal thoughts. That's one thing we talked about, and how they just really needed somebody to talk to, which is really what it boils down to. But that when they call in to talk to a pastor, they kind of help them through, and they're like, well, where are you at? What are you doing? Do you have? Dale was talking about one thing that he always does with people that claim that they are suicidal. He always asks if they have a plan to end their life, because that kind of is almost a reality check for people that claim that they want to, or that say they want to kill themselves. And at that point, they just a lot of times pray for them. They said that most of the calls that they get are prayer calls, people that just need prayer. They had a death in the family or financial needs or whatever like that. But a lot of the things that are in the middle of the night are, they could be anywhere from domestic violence to suicide to, I guess to even needing prayer. But we discussed the whole suicidal thing, and he kind of walked us through that process on how they deal with people on that. Leading them through it, leading them into freedom for that, and following up, whether it be the next day or within the next week. And then we talked about the domestic violence, and how that was one thing that I was kind of concerned about. Like, how do you guys, as like a pastoral team for that, or if you're the pastor on call, how do you guys approach that? And he simply said, him and Brady both were talking about that they're simply at liberty to, like, legally to report it, which as I guess a citizen of Texas, you're legally, legally required to report domestic violence if you hear about it, or anything. It's kind of like a moral standard, I guess, for Texas. But if somebody is dealing with domestic violence, and they tell you, hey, my husband just beat me up, that they're required to call the cops. And they stay on the phone with them while they're calling the cops. But Brady said that he would, that like in certain situations, he would have his wife call the cops. Because if it's in the middle of the night and they're at home, they'll have his wife call the cops and give them the whole background, and then they meet up. But it was just, I guess the moral, I guess what I got out of Wednesday night was that I just thought it was cool that they have the whole pastors on call thing. I've never really thought about that within a church, but I guess really every church should have it, and definitely a church the size of Gateway, it's basically like a little city. They should have one, and it's cool that they do have one. That if anybody calls, there's more than one pastor on call each week. So I thought that was pretty cool to see that they really usher in freedom. You don't have to be a member of Gateway to call and get receive freedom, which I thought was amazing. Just simply because it just kind of shows Gateway's heart for the kingdom and for people in general. But yeah, it's just I guess throughout this practicum, it's definitely been changing my whole perspective on Gateway. Just because of when I first moved to Kings, like I didn't really know who Gateway was or what Gateway was. And then I just developed this like almost like a borderline hatred for Gateway. But the Lord's definitely been changing my perspective on Gateway. Instead of I think I let the enemy have a foothold in my opinions of this amazing church, and it's just been super cool. Definitely the last few practicums, like semesters that I've had, but definitely this one with Freedom and dealing with Brady Daniel and getting to meet all these different pastors that really have a heart to reach the capital C church. I'll say that. It's just super cool to see that. So, anyways, yeah, that's that. So, see you next week.